Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, December 17th. It's 10 a.m. live. If you're listening later, wherever you are, know you're welcome. This is I Am an Open Door. Cindy Krupp's, Reverend Cindy Krupp, teacher Cindy Krupp, just plain old person Cindy Krupp, who hosts these gatherings, these get-togethers on her website, Open Door, and we are grateful to her for doing that. So if you're finding us later, know you're welcome to be here. We're going through rather slowly, but persistently and deeply, a book called Training Wheels, which I wrote, was my take on the daily lessons of A Course in Miracles. And since it was published in 2019, it's been really interesting to see how the interpretation of these lessons has deepened for me, and how much I would have perhaps changed a few of the lessons or a few of the paragraphs. So what we're doing is I'm reading the lesson and adding a little commentary, and we're just contemplating it together and then having a discussion about it. So today, let's see, I'd invite you, what I usually do is ask folks to just turn their cameras off, because we just want to immerse ourselves in the words here. So I'm turning my camera off, and I will take us through a review of the lessons that we've done so far, because as Cindy has shown us in the past, it really, I want to say, it deepens and broadens and expands the daily lesson to hear the lessons that have come before it. So feel yourself in your chair and relax. While it's still fairly early in the day, welcome this moment and take this respite to let go of whatever has happened so far in these daylight hours, and just let your body go, let your mind go. Just be present here. Breathe naturally. Be receptive. Lesson 14. God did not create a meaningless world. Or we could say source, or the infinite, eternal, did not create a meaningless world. Nothing I see means anything. I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. I do not understand anything I see. These thoughts do not mean anything. I'm never upset for the reasons I think. I'm upset because I see something that is not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. A meaningless world engenders fear. God did not create a meaningless world. In the past dozen lessons or more, we've been told that our thoughts and our world are meaningless. If you're new to these lessons, you might think the rug has been pulled out from under your feet. But you're still standing, are you not? Today's lesson tells us that while we may have created a meaningless world, the infinite, eternal, did not, and that is all that matters. Everything begins and ends with Source. Our minds see one kind of world, but God's mind is a different matter. And now, hold on to your hats, for you are about to be given the keys to the kingdom. What God did not create does not exist. The world we see, the world we think we see, has nothing to do with big R reality. It is our own making, and it is not real. To consider this world as being unreal or not real is a challenge for the egoic mind, to say the least. We look, we see, we feel its reality. It appears solid. But the mind is a powerful thing. And this is true even of the mind that has forgotten its own creative ability. There's a great freedom in this lesson, a freedom beyond anything you can imagine now, especially if you're new to these lessons. Quantum physicist Fred Alan Wolf writes, according to the tenets of the complementarity principle, there is no reality until that reality is perceived. In other words, reality does not exist until we perceive it. But our perception is limited, so we don't see everything that there is to see. For example, we do not see all possible colors with our eyes, yet we know they exist. We do not hear all possible sounds with our ears, yet we know there are sounds all around us we're not hearing. We live in a three-dimensional world, but we know there are more dimensions in reality than we can see. Nothing is outside the infinite, eternal. Yet we have to acknowledge we don't see it all at this level of reality. Therefore, we are not seeing all of God, and God is reality. In this lesson, we begin to open to new worlds. So as you sit, just take 3 deep cleansing breaths and just relax a little more into your chair. Feel your feet on the floor. Let your tummy be soft. Let your shoulders relax. And now allow your mind to bring up this world. Stay relaxed and stay comfortable, but just allow this world to come into your awareness. For each one of you, it will be something different. It could be a minor annoyance. It could be a car theft. It could be the war in Gaza. It could be your bank account. It could be a job. It could be your kids. It could be your health. Anything. And name that thing that comes up for you. And hold it briefly. And then say in your mind, God did not create this war, this disease, this theft, this job, whatever it is. And so it is not real. Let's do this now. I'm going to time us, so let's just spend 2 minutes or so just allowing the world to come up, looking at it, holding it, observing it, and then saying in our minds, this is not real. God did not create this. I'll time us and I will bring us back. What God did not create can only be in our minds. Apart from mind of God. but nothing is apart from mind of God. Therefore, when you see apart from the infinite eternal, it has no meaning. It's our own creation. These exercises prepare the mind for the journey out of this world. You will awaken to your own call, for the call to awake is within you. The world as we perceive it cannot have been created by the infinite eternal, for the world is not as we perceive it with the body's eyes. The infinite eternal created only the eternal, and everything we see with the body's eyes, including those eyes and the body, are perishable. Therefore, there must be another world which we are not seeing. What then is the world that awaits your perception when you see? Every loving thought that the child of God ever had is eternal. These loving thoughts, even though perceived in this world, are this world's only reality. They are real because they are loving. And being loving, they are like the infinite, eternal, and therefore they do not die. The end of this world is not its destruction, but its translation into heaven. The reinterpretation of the world is the transfer of all perception to knowledge. You will awaken to your own call, for the call to awaken is within you. God did not create a meaningless world. This is not a lesson in wishful thinking. Every loving thought you have ever had is real and eternal, not by your decision, but because it is in line with that which you truly are, which is love. When you're ready, take some cleansing breaths and come on back. The lesson for today is my sinless brother is my guide to peace. My sinful brother is my guide to pain. And which I choose to see, I will behold. I have been seeing my brother as sinful a fair amount these past few weeks. I've been having a hard time perceiving love everywhere. Richard tells us that he seems to be able to do this fairly easily now because he reminds himself over and over again, as he said yesterday, the light of the world has come to every mind because I have forgiven the world. So Richard's words yesterday reminded me yet again that every time I move apart from love, from forgiveness, I'm actually moving apart from myself. And that's when I feel lonely and separated and afraid. It's only because I'm moving away from myself. There really is no other way to see beyond this world than to practice this. As Cindy shows us over and over again, we get lost in the world and we have our moments with it, and then we pull ourselves back into big R reality through the forgiveness. And I will say, for me, there are times when I get weary with my little self. Do I have to do this again? Right? Yes, I do, until I don't. I've been having dreams lately, recurring dreams of finding myself lost somewhere. And thinking in my dream, oh, I must be getting dementia because I'm lost. But then I find someone in the dream and I admit I'm lost. Can you show me where my apartment is? I have the key. I know I have the key to it, to the door. And it's funny because I thought this was my apartment because the key worked and I got in here, but obviously this isn't where I live. Can you show me where I live? And the person says, yes, I can show you. And I go off happily following them wherever they're going to take me. And that's such a window into where I feel I am, where I think I am right now. I'm not in heaven. I am at heaven's door and I have the key, but I think I'm lost. But at least I have the sense to ask someone, do you know the way? 5 years ago, I would have been too prideful or too embarrassed to have said, I don't know where I am. I think I must have dementia. And it's true, I do. But boy, just admitting it, that's when, and asking for help, that's where it is. That's where the meaningless world begins to end. So the outer world certainly appears meaningless. We have chosen in some ways, although everyone who has an experience in this quote unquote reality has chosen to live a challenge. But this seems especially true, although what's true is always true. So how does this lesson sit with you? I will stop talking and invite Livy to the head of the table. How does this lesson ring for you?
Good morning, everybody.
Good
I always
morning.
enjoy being with all y'all. Such a treat for me. Um, wow, there's so much juicy stuff in that. And, there was one thing I was going to comment on, and then you started talking about your dream. And I was like, yes, because it used to be once I understood why I was having so many dreams about San Francisco, and I understand all that stuff was coming up to be healed. And before that, I would have a dream where I was back there and I didn't know where my apartment building was. And I somehow always find it. And I always find it interesting that in another dream, I'll be like, what's the address? I don't know. And then I'll end up being there, and then, I could relate to that. What I was initially going to comment on was Friday before last, I had a disturbing incident happen where I work, and I walked out. And because I had so much, I was shaking so hard, and I was so upset, and I knew I couldn't stay there. And I left, and the 24th is actually going to be my last day there. I can't work in that environment anymore. It's become toxic for me. Um, and but I handled it in a way I've never handled upset like that, and the visceral reaction that my body was having. And I immediately came home and called Rana, and she helped me work with the energy. And she helped me understand the energy in a way, so when I get upset like that, I don't have to hit something anymore. It used to be that, I mean, even in high school, I remember I'd go, if I was upset, I'd go in the bathroom and I'd hit the stall. It was always about hitting something. I had so much rage in me, um, and which I'm working through. And it was just beautiful. I'd never dealt with feelings like that, just allowing them to be there and to recognize where that energy was sitting in my body. And, and not even attaching a story to it, just being with the energy. And, I love that there is no meaning except what I give it. It's very um, freeing in that respect, because when I handled it, I gave a 2-week notice. Even though I walked out, they did pay me for the entire week because they knew that the behavior was unacceptable. Um, and when I went back to work the Tuesday after that, because they're closed on Mondays, I decided to go in with love instead of any kind of defensiveness or, you know, justifiable anger. Yeah, I mean, the ego wants to attach a story and make everybody separate. And, here I am on my pedestal with my spear in the ground. And I decided I chose love instead. And I just went in and just was as loving as I could be. And when I could feel the story wanting to come up and the justifiable anger, because I'm never going to do any of this perfectly. And it's just recognizing that I don't have to stay in the familiar anger because it's been there for so long, and I can recognize it as the anger and not personalize it. And it's like I can choose, which I do on occasion. I can choose love, and how much easier, the body relaxes. There's not a story. It's just being present with everyone without a story and able to come from a place of love. And this is totally new for me. And it just, nothing has any meaning except what I give it, is so expansive for me and helps me to be willing to step out of the cocoon that I have built for myself to try to keep me safe. And so it's a matter of having the recognition of nothing has any meaning except what I give it, so that I can be more present with what's happening right here, right now, in the moment. And I see what a gift working there has been, and that it's offered me opportunity to work with the anger and allow it to move through my body in all the places that I've stored it for decades. And it's just such a gift, just an incredible gift to be able to choose to come from a place from the heart rather than be pointing a finger or just to be able. And even when I gave my notice, it was like, okay, it's like we're ready for the next thing. And I look forward to spending more time with y'all very soon. And that's a real gift. And so that's basically what I wanted to share. Is I just have much more of a keen awareness now of where my separateness or my feelings of separateness, or you know wanting to feel separate so I can feel a false sense of power and all those things. I'm just really grateful today that I'm able to recognize what it is so that I can allow it to pass through and open up all these places that my body has been holding on to it for decades. And it's such a gift, such a gift. And I just really thank you for this lesson. Thank y'all so much, and love all y'all bunches. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we look forward to having you with us more too. David.
When you started talking, and well, first of all, when you said, you read it, God did not create a meaningless world. I go, well, and but the first thing that happened, I go, well, then who did? And then then I got thinking about, some quantum. Then I'm going to quantum physics. Well, there's a energy vibration, and we in our thoughts manifested this and that, and out of the vibration and all this stuff. And then I got to thinking about what Alfred E. Newman said about all this, and when he said, "Why ask why?" And I go, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, why. I mean, if it's meaningless, if it isn't real, why do I spend so much time worrying about it? I can, I can better spend my thoughts loving and celebrating what is versus worrying and fretting about what isn't, and so I go, well, that seems like a plan. And so, it's so interesting. I created a problem and solved the problem, which wasn't a problem in a 5 minute during that meditation. So I guess that's why meditations are supposed to work. And the other thing I want to talk about is Libby, I love what to listen to you. And when you say all y'all, I don't know, there's something about that. Maybe it's because up here in Indiana, we can't do that. We can't say that correctly. I mean, we just don't have it in us. It's not in our DNA to say all y'all and say it right. But you just knock the ball out of the park when you do that. It's, oh God, that just sounds so good. I just love to hear that. So good on you. So that's so I can't say I love you all like Richard does, but I love you all. So that's
Y'all,
that's what I
I
have.
love y'all.
I love all y'all.
All y'all. Thank you, David. Before Cindy comes on, I just want to say something and share something, and maybe Cindy can talk a little bit about it. But Cindy introduced us to Tony Parsons, and I've been doing a lot of reading of Tony Parsons. I really, really enjoy.
Richard introduced us to Tony Parsons. Sorry, I
Richard
needed to
did.
make that correction.
No, absolutely. I knew that and I forgot. Well, maybe Richard can answer this question then. So I'm going to put him on the spot. Tony says there's no meaning to anything. Right? Don't even look for meaning in the infinite eternal. There's no meaning there. Everything just is. And the ising is its own meaning, right? It's very being, you know. And I understand this in terms of awareness being self-luminous. Awareness is aware of itself. It illuminates itself. And so being is its own meaning. The very act of being is the meaning. It's all the meaning that is required. But where I've found that's been leaving me is with this empty space, because I want there to be love. And if nothing has meaning, my little brain is having a hard time connecting to love. Right? Love has meaning for me. And I'm not making that, I'm kind of putting Tony over here because I need to come back to the love. And, Michelle and I have been sharing a lot of NDEs, not near-death experiences. And a lot of those experiences come forth and they say, there is purpose here. Your purpose is to love. Your purpose is to forgive. Your purpose is to have this experience and find the love in all the shit. It's like this joke my dad used to tell me about these two kids get put into a room that's full of horse manure. And they're both given shovels, and one kid, 2 hours later, the researchers open the door and they see what the two kids are doing. And one kid is just sitting in the corner crying and saying, there's just shit here. And the other kid is digging away. And the researcher says, what are you doing? And he says, well, with all this horse manure, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. So that's kind of, that's where I am. It's, and I'm sharing this with you because Cindy has kind of given us permission that, even as all of us are master level, we're all really good teachers. We still have these moments where we go, what the F? This is confusing. I need my little love blanket. I need my purpose blanket. I need to know that there is something I am not experiencing and I cannot perceive in this moment that is holding me and that I am a part of, God did not create a meaningless world. And I know from my experience that when I practice Richard's forgiveness, I am the light of the world through my forgiveness. When I practice forgiveness, I feel it right here. And the more I do it, the more I feel it. But it doesn't mean I am forever free in this reality from getting lost again and again. I am not there yet. And the more I hope that I will be there, the further away I get, because I am there. I just forget to remember. So I'll step aside and let anyone who wants to answer. There's nothing to answer, but anyone who has anything to illuminate about my confusion, feel free.
Richard, do you want to say anything before I start speaking?
No, go ahead.
How about I love us, or I love you? Can you do that?
Love you all.
Thank you. All right. There's a number of things so I'm going to try to, well, I'm handing it over to the one that knows. So the very first thing is, man, I love us. And I am motivated more and more to create a podcast focused solely on the first 15 minutes of this training wheels for now. Just, it takes me to a stunning place. So I wanted to just say thank you to the one we call Amy, because it's extraordinary what's happening through you. Don't even think you recognize it. And throughout this conversation, I am experiencing an awe, because yes, awe, and it appears to be related to the conversation we had yesterday and how they seem to work so well together. Yesterday, specifically with lesson 73, we were taught that there is only God's will, and God's will is love and light and beauty. And the ego would have you focused on something that's not that. And it may be unforgiveness and idle wishes, and that may be appearing to be creating something other than God's love. In reality, it's not, but it is feeding an illusion that you get to play in for as long as you choose to focus on it. And it was such an, as I was listening to where we were today and feeling just that part of that teaching yesterday, I was in awe. So that was the second thing I wanted to say. Chills about how well we work together, how well God or the love is working through all of us to weave a tapestry. Very poetic this morning. I've been listening to David White. My poet is activating. Thank you, Kendall. The question that arose for anyone who wants to contemplate this while I was listening to Livy's stunning share is this. And it was I was watching the wording of it, so it feels like the wording is part of this. Is accepting I am in choice. Livy just kept saying I am choosing to, right? Is accepting I am in choice the same as making a decision? And the more I sit in that, the more fun it is to watch how it's answering and not being answering. I could tell you that right now, so much of the way so much of the teaching and our sharing is working with me, I am recognizing that A Course in Miracles and a lot of these other teachings for me tell me that whatever my current level of consciousness is, I always have the freedom of choice, but there's only ever two choices.
Right.
I can either choose to reach for the highest vibration, the frequency. Lately in my head, it's been being called love and above. Man, it rhymes and I like it. So I can either in any given moment, no matter how the world is hitting me, I can, as soon as I notice, I can choose to ask for whatever will bring me to love and above in this current circumstance, or I could choose to hang out in the shit and not bother looking for the pony. Whereas decision seems to make the ego and the decision maker and the part of me that thinks it knows what it needs to do to find the God I never left, blah, 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 seems to have an infinite number of directions it could go. And they all feel heavy. And they are all kind of tinged with fear. Now, I don't know if that's the final answer. But I'm loving sitting in it. Is accepting that I am in choice the same as making a decision. And the other thing that's happening as I'm sitting in speaking this out loud, it feels like there's an invitation the next time there's confusion to notice, am I in choice or am I attempting to make a decision? The last thing, as Amy was sharing confusion, I will to read this. I've been spending a lot of time with the guides in Paul Selleck, and I'm finishing a book that I'm just having a great time with. And there's a statement they say that says, "Here we go." And they've got a picture of the group that's in this work, and we're all in this work climbing up a mountain. And as we're climbing up a mountain, what we're doing is we're dropping the forms that we have created in fear so that we can reach for higher and higher. And every time they say in this book, here we go, they're setting a vibrational frequency to allow another couple of steps up the mountain, never alone. But I'd love to read something, this intention. You do not have to accept it, but I haven't read it out loud to myself. It's on the next page. But as I was listening to Amy, I reached for the book with the intention to read it out loud for us and to see if you want to accept it at any given point, if that's okay. Yes? Okay, so here we go. You ready, Amy? This is what the guides have to say about your question, whether or not there's a purpose. I don't know if they have it, but that's what's coming through here. On this day, in this moment, I agree to be in service, fully realized in my knowing of my divine nature. And as I say yes, I am handed a paper that I will hold to my heart. And on this paper lies the instructions that I will require to honor and to be through as I require it. I understand that by holding the paper to my heart, I accept the symbol of my knowing of my heart's worth and motive, an agreement for realization. And I support myself in this engagement as I need it and as I will need it to be called forward in service. And so, similar to what we've spoken about in other conversations about why are we here, the guides in these books clearly state that when you say yes to this teaching, you are saying yes to dropping what you think you know so that you could merge with the divine, so that you could rise into the frequency of love. Cindy says love and above, not to make Cindy's life better. They're very clear on that, but so that you can be in service to the divine, in service in love, so that whatever is required for this planet can so that love can flow through you to do whatever is needed. I love stating that make me an it's like St. Francis's prayer, make me an instrument of your peace, and that's enough for me, to sink back into that understanding that I'm doing this work so that God could use me for whatever, without trying to figure out what that forever is. But yeah, let me spew love everywhere so that there's more love. So that's what I got to
Yeah.
share.
Oh, I thank you so much for that. I had forgotten that. I had forgotten that being in service. I remember a meditation, this was at least a decade ago, asking, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? Just meditating on that while I was reading Paul Selig, and it came so clearly that my purpose is to be in service. And what I love about that whole concept is for me, it gives me what more could one ask than to be in service to the infinite eternal? What an honor to be in service to that. What a gift to be worthy to be in service to the infinite eternal. Thank you for that share, Cindy. Richard.
Morning, everyone. Great sharing as always. Love it. Service, interesting. I remember I made the choice to be of service to my country for 22 years, and then when I found the Course in Miracles, I decided to be of service to the sonship, and that's been my focus for over 30 years. So that has really helped me to understand the Course and to get to Amy's question about Tony Parsons. What I loved about Tony when I first saw him was he was manifesting what I thought was the real world. And he completely, the self itself had completely disappeared in his experience. He was the beingness, the isness. It just was. Everything just was. And being as a separate self, Richard likes to figure out how to understand what's non-understandable in order to move forward. So I'll share with you my perception of what reality is. Reality, there is no God. So there is only infinite awareness or infinite non-physical force energy that just is. And somehow as a dream got formed, the Course in Miracles says the dream is a result of the split mind. That when the mind finally decided that it chose the ego, and because of light separation from source, and made that choice, it forgot about the real world, it forgot about reality, and decided, and when it made that decision, the mind then was full of sin, guilt, and fear, the unholy trinity, and that they had in fact destroyed God because they had become separate from their source. And then they felt guilty of doing that, and they were fearful that God would resurrect itself and find them and punish them. So the mind was full of this sin, guilt, and fear, and it couldn't stand it. I wanted to be innocent. So it's splitting once again. So it's split into the innocent son of God or child of God and projected out all the sin-filled fear and guilt. That's what the world is. So, coming to the realization that that is not reality, the world is not reality, that it is, in fact, you're innocent, coming to that realization. And somehow the dream that that projection made is what we experience. And so we made it. We made the world. And what the world is an educational classroom where we find out what we are not. So we can choose again what we are in truth. And most of us have done that. So, so how do we, so is this, it's only persons represent the isness of being in that moment, and from moment to moment, you're the love that you are in truth. So there is no separate self. So what did we experience? Richard had to figure out what he is experiencing as Richard. So Richard is a body mind with dream figure in the dream. The love that he is, everything is, comes through the dream. How he does this, I have no idea. But it comes in the dream and manifests itself through Richard, or through Amy, or David, or Libby, or Cindy, or Barbara, or Michelle, or Kendall. And each of us within the illusion have our own story. We have our own conditioning. We have our own beliefs, our own concepts. And this loving force energy that comes through us is manifested as how it is distorted by our beliefs and our concepts. And we try our best to purify this vessel. The miracle principle number 7 says, miracles are natural, but purification is necessary. So what we're doing, each of us are purifying our minds to get rid of all the beliefs and concepts that are blocking our awareness of love's presence. And the more we do that, the more love shines through us as what it really is, not as what we think it is. And in order to do this, I'm finding now for me, we get to a point, I'm heading there, where I'm completely ready to surrender everything. Richard, I have to surrender Richard. I have to stop being Richard and be this energy. Well, that's what we're all trying to do, I think. So we're all doing the best we can, moment to moment. So I love you all. Have a great day. Hope that answered your question, Amy.
Yeah, well, it does. And it does. And I always enjoy hearing your explanation of how we got here and what's really going on. David says I can WTF you or sit in the shit of WTF.
The course says also, one of my favorite quotes of the course is, I'm gonna mess it up, but look at the dream from the point at which it ended. Believing once again, we journey and make the journey again. The dream is already over. We're just looking at it. and we're judging it as good or bad. It's done. It's a done deal. So I might as well enjoy it. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and again, you know, you will awaken to your own call because you are calling to yourself, right? And
Right.
speaking of reality and love, says Michelle, with the world being a classroom, it encourages our journey, remembering that it's a classroom and never a courtroom. Love that. I feel more of the love that we are each time I remember that in the poop moments.
Did you see Kendall's message from a little earlier about?
Kendall says, what comes to mind is why do we have to give meaning, love, to essentially what we are? Exactly. Thank you, Kendall. Yeah, we don't. It's self-luminous, self-meaning, meaningful. Exactly. Well, it's 1 minute past, and I want to thank everyone for being here. We'll see you all in what, another hour, Cindy? All right. Go and do good and love yourself.